Hi there and welcome to part 5. In this part we're going to model the construction beams on the top of the factory hall, and these are the core of this complex. So they're very important and we're going to model them from scratch, and in the end we're putting them on the top of the factory and duplicating them so we have this nice looking construction. So that will be pretty much it for this part. So let's get started.
And welcome to part 5 of this factory course. So in the previous part, we added some materials. We started with the plaster. We had to do some UV mapping, did a box projection. And then we added the concrete floor with the striping, the concrete plates, and the roof plates right there. And in the end, we added the windows with some transparency. And as soon as we hit render, we have this nice looking factory hall. And it already starts to feel like a factory. But the part I like to focus in for part number 5 are the construction beams. And they're going to be on the roof. And it will be a lot of modeling. It will be a bit more advanced. So it's important that we slow it a little bit down and you focus. So you know what we're doing, and you feel comfortable, and as soon as just follow what I'm doing, we will get there. So what we will do is I like to start by adding a new collection. I'm clicking on building and calling this factory, and we're moving this factory right there. That is the hall. And on blueprints, I'm making beams like this. And doing the same for the top one beams. So this way, construction, it's calling beams, let's say construction, because you cannot have the same naming. By adding a lot of parts, it won't get messy. So it's important that you start organizing from this point, and then we're good. So I like to go to the front view and move a little bit more to the right. So we start with adding a blueprint, add, image, reference, and we go to, let's say, my beams, and you can see a couple of images. I created the beams multiple times, so for this beginner course, I feel more comfortable by using a blueprint than just modeling this out of the blue. With any kind of reference. It's not like the best reference, but it gives them some measurements so we know how to do that. Exactly for the same for the factory hall. So we start with the beam measurements. You can find these all these images on my Patreon as a pack. It's all free available. You don't need to pay anything. It's just there. Free subscription. So we have this image. I'm scaling this a little bit. And I want to measure this. So I'm adding a cube. Let's click beam construction, and this will just be a measurement object. So I'm just dragging this, I'm not snapping, I'm just trying to measure it. We go to item, and we want to have 11 meters. So we now have to align this image. We go to the settings, making the opacity, lower it a little bit, like this. We go to wireframe, and I have to enable my screencast again. It's the most stable plugin I've ever worked with, but at least it's doing something. And I'm going to align the ends. So this is the cube, and you can see it's now right there. So at this point, we still work with blended grids when modeling the main parts. But as soon as we have the measurement, we scale this down and we're going to align this with the blueprint. So then we skip the blender grids. That's totally fine. Don't need to panic. But for the main parts, we use the measurements. Otherwise, we have very weird parts that doesn't fit. So I like to just delete this measurement cube because this represents, this beam represent the size, and I like to just select the beam construction again, add mesh cube. So what we're going to do is just drag this cube right here. So we can have some spacing. And I like to, let's import another more perspective image from the beam, like this one. And this is not for, this is just as a reference, so we can take a closer look what kind of parts we have. So I like to start with this part, the construction beam, that we can put on the top and at the bottom. And we need it for some other parts in the factory. So we also have to make a duplication that we can use again. And as soon as we make this part, we have to add a texture. So we're starting to duplicate, and we don't have to map it for every single part. We just have to slide the UVs a little bit to make it more unique. So it's a lot of information. So let's get started with the beam. So I added this cube, and what I like to do, currently it's using 2 blended grids. And I want to see the origin, and because we are in the shading mode, we won't see that. I don't know why they skip that in these modes. So we go to the modeling tab, and we go to the camera. We don't want that. We go back to the cube, and we can see the origin. So what I like to do is switch to the edit mode, wireframe, go to the vertice selection mode by pressing 1, and we're pressing G and Ctrl, and we're dragging this. So the origin is at the bottom. So far, so good. At this point, I'd like to add a modifier, a mirror. And the reason is that everything I'm going to do on the top will be done on the bottom. And this way it speeds up the modeling. So currently this beam or this cube has 2 blended grids. So I'm selecting the top, pressing G, Ctrl, and I'm scaling this up 4, like this. And one more. I want to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we add another edge line, like this, and we're moving this on top. So what I did was I added a cube, and I extruded it by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And because we already had 2 blended grids, we now have 7. So I added this edge line. So we can now also, by the way, we have to switch to Z, and it's happening there as well. And I like to extrude this to the right with 6 blended grids. Extrude. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Like this, and we have to do the same for the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we have like the core of the beam. What we could have done is also use a mirror modifier for the other side, but this works pretty good. So as soon as we're finished, I like to apply. Yeah. And I want to check if there are doubles at this point. By distance, there are no doubles. Sometimes if you use a mirror modifier, yeah. What I did was I selected it and pressed X and face, and there was a face in the middle, but no doubles, and I removed it. So that's what I did. So we go to the top, we're rotating this beam. We go to the front view, and I like to scale this down. So at this point, we're just ignoring the blended grids. I like to align this with the construction beam right here or here. So we have something like this. We go to the edit mode, and let's move this to the middle and SX, like so. We can do this in multiple ways. I feel like this is one of the best. So if we just scroll around, we can see we have this construction beam, and I don't like this blueprint to be inside. It's a little bit distracting. So we have this construction beam, and there is no more modifier applied. And at this point, I like to add a texture, because if I just continue with modeling without adding the texture, I have to do this for all the parts, and that's a lot of extra work. So I create a new material and beam metal like this. Oh, that's not good. Perfect. So we go to the shading, add, texture, image texture, and I like to go to my texture folder and blue metal plate. The original color was blue, and for this I like to use this orange, so I just made multiple colors. We're putting it right there, and I will give a little bit of explanation about what we're going to do with the texture. The roughness, non-color, and Shift V, add displacement normal map, putting it right there, and this normal. I'm using this texture a lot, like this. So let's take a look. So maybe we have to go to the UV editing, metal, so we can see it. So the great thing about this texture is that it has a lot of scratches and damage. So by adding the beams on this texture, we already have like a natural look. So we don't have to do a lot of post-processing and blending. It's just adding this. We're going to unwrap it, and then we're like pretty much done. So we have this beam, and yeah, let's start with the UV mapping, and then we make a duplication. So we select, let's add some edge line, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we select everything, pressing U, Q projection, or we have to check if the scaling is not right. Control A, rotation and scale, and we do the Q projection again, and that helps a lot. This is why you always need to do this scaling. We select the UV and we rotate this. We start to scale it and align this with this line. So I like to hide this factory, pressing H. So it's still there if I press all the H's back, but if I go to the material preview, it's loading all the textures from the factory. I don't want that. So we do the material preview, and it looks like this. I have to remove my tab. And from a distance, it looks really cool. So because we now have one beam, we're duplicating it and putting it right there. So we have this backup. So we can like merge this later on, and we always have one extra. That's very important. So I like to duplicate this beam and holding Control, snapping this. And now we're moving this a little bit downwards. Yeah, it's still in the same line. So we now have these two beams, and my screencast is taking a break again. So there we have it. And we are in the UV editing. And I like to continue with another part. So I like to go back to modeling, and we're going to add a new cube. So I like to select this, and we have to call this beam. Otherwise we get a lot of beams. So naming is very key. So we need to be in the beam construction, and we'll go to add, mesh, and cube, and we're dragging this cube right here. So Control Z, pressing G, Control, and we're snapping on the blender grids. So moving it a little bit downwards. And the part I like to make is this shaped construction beam. It's a small part, and we have to make it look like this with some reinforcements in the middle to make it strong. And then we have to align this on the beam. It's quite a complex construction, but as soon as we're finished, it's really working well out. So we're going to extrude this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and an edge line, and we're putting this right there. So we want to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these blender grids at the bottom, and extrude this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have this shape. So what I like to do now is we're going to the top view, we rotate it. We go to the side view and rotate it again like this. Go to the front view, and we're going to scale it down. We're moving it upwards, like this, making it smaller. And you can see what we're going to make. It looks a little bit like this. Scale it. So we are aligning this. So we forget about the blender grids. It's not important at this point. We're going to scale this as X. So we're trying to align this like this. Okay. At this point, Control A, rotation and scale, or rotation and scale, doesn't really matter. And I like to add this reinforcement. So Control R, 2, 3, S, and bring them a little bit together. This, what you see in the background, is just a reference. I want to be these exactly in the middle, like this. And I kind of like it. So we're going to select these, Alt left click, Shift Alt left click, and Shift Alt left click. We press Control B. So we have this. So not too wide, something like this will do. That's pretty cool. And we go to the face selection mode. And Shift left click, Shift left click. And at this point, I like to extrude these. And that will look a little bit weird, but we will get there. We extrude it like this. And I want to bring these now more together. But if we do this, that looks weird. So if you go here on the top and you go to individual origins, you can scale these together like this. That's what I want to do. All right, so same for this bar. I like to use the beam metal, and we're going to do the scaling again just to check. And we add the texture, cube projection, and we have to switch back to UV editing and check our UVs. We rotate it, like this, and just use the other side, like so. And the first part is ready. So what we will do is we keep this part right here. We Shift D, duplicate it, bring it right here. I like to start with the large one on top. So the large one will be these two. We have a smaller and this vertical one. That's the bottom. So we have to make 3 versions. Pretty easy. As soon as this one is ready, we can just hop to the next one. So I like to go to the side view, press point on the numpad, and we have this selected in the middle. And I just want to move this to the left, GY, and we duplicate it, Shift D, and we rotate it like this, holding Control. And I want 2 blender grids between this, like this. So we go to the front view, and the first part is like ready. What I like to do is just move these on the y-axis, so we have different like textures on it, UV mapping, and we can we have a double, so we can join these. Shift left click, Control J. So if you do Control J, you have like one single object, and we have the right scaling. So press Shift D, and we lower it like this. And I like to align it, so we're moving these like this, and we select all of it. I like to select these endpoints in SY. So and we're going to move them slightly down. So again, we have a little bit of different textures, but you can see some repetition. So feel free to just move this to the other side like this. That's good. All right. I like to duplicate it another time for the smallest one. We move this together like so. Just perfect. Okay, so we now have 3 parts. I like to select these and do the same as Y, a little bit close together. How does it look like? Something is going weird, so we have to do the cube projection again. That's kind of weird, so let's select 1, U, cube projection. Sometimes you have to check your UVs. Oh, that's fine. U, that one is kind of weird. It's just mapping a double. So we have to just align that. No problem for it. It's kind of double. What's happening? Why it's not changing? Okay. At this point, because they are now single objects, we can align these on the main beam. We can go to the solid view, and I like to start with the vertical bar. So we press Shift D for this part, holding Control, and rotate it like this, and align this with the part. I like to go to the side view and align it a little bit better with the main beam, like this. And then we go to part number B, Shift D, and rotate it so it's fitting, like so. Go to the side view, align that as well. Very important. And the tallest one, Shift D, and bring that in position. Side view and GY. Okay, so front view. I like to duplicate this part. It's exactly the same, so I also want to just move the UVs, otherwise you see repetition. And because yeah, we have to duplicate that one as well. It's just the same. And another time. Okay, so we now have this, and the other side is like exactly the same, so we can just we first have to make these smaller ones, and then when you make a big duplication. So as you can see, we have single ones here, so we duplicate that one, align this. We're going to stretch these a bit more in the edit mode. Don't do this in the object because that will stretch the middle reinforcement. So just do the cube projection again. Here we go. And bring that in position. Okay. So Shift D and rotate like this and align it. Okay, go to the side view, align it with this point, and Shift D, rotate, hold Control, yes, and slide the UVs, GY. Okay, so we have something like this. So far, so good. So you can see there are some plates between. We have to model these. Add mesh cube. So where's the cube? It's right there. So I made some samples, but I mean, it's just a matter of making these smaller, like so. And SX. And try to align that. Okay. We go to the side view and we make it smaller, so it's fitting between these two as Y. Okay, you want to have just a little bit of spacing, not that they are merging. Control A, rotation and scale, and Shift left click, Control L, and link material. So it's now sharing the same material without just selecting it in this panel. So it's a sort of a short key. And do the cube projection. And you can just use something here. I like to have the border on top. How does it look like? That's fine. So we have multiple ones. Doing the shading, the solid mode. Shift D. Here we go. They all have a little bit of different shape. Okay, Shift D. So as I mentioned before, this part is all about the modeling. It's the most intensive one. We have to, by the way, change the UVs for every part. We don't want to have any repetition. Repeating part. But I think it's valuable to have a part that is more complex than just doing rough shapes or simple shapes. Shift D. This one is different than the others. Like so. Just aligning it. Nothing fancy. And you can use these like templates if you want. So I have this, adding an edge line and bringing these down together. Like so. And a cube projection. Always a new projection to just match it. So we have most of them. And there's two more. One over here. And the large one. Like this. Okay. And do the cube projection. Like so. Cool. A little taller. And at this point, what we will do, we're going to copy like everything. So just deselect the background. We want to select these and that one and this part. Okay. We go to the top view and Shift D and we rotate. Oh no, you have to go to bounding box center and then we can rotate that. And move this inside like this. And move this to the right. Here we go. Okay. So there's a little bit of aligning issues. This is perfect. Only this part is a little bit different. So we're just moving it. And this one is smaller. Here we go. Like so. Oh. Great. And if we go to the material editor, it looks like a construction beam. Because we made this duplication, I want to move all the parts a little bit so they look unique, a bit more unique. Because we're going to duplicate this beam 4 times. And it's pretty odd if you see like a repetition. For the beam as well, maybe just a whole other area for the beam, like this. And these. And for the plates as well. I just want to check if we have original objects. All right. And these. Some are not selected. All right. We're almost there. There are some parts you cannot really see, but at this perspective, you can see there are some plates on the ends, sort of end caps. So I like to model these as well. Add mesh. It's very simple, but they need to be added. Just bring them over here. And you can see it right here, smaller. This is sort of guerrilla modeling. And I like to put this on the end. Like so. Go to the side view. And we're aligning this part with the beam. So, and yet it looks like this. So we have to bring this area all a bit more inside, like so. So we're aligning this. Control A, rotation and scale. We're using the same material. Control L, link material. And do the mapping U cube projection. And we have one. Another one here at the bottom. like so. And now you can see the origin is floating. You press spacebar, origin to geometry, and it's exactly in the middle. And I like to just adjust this beam a little bit. So cube projection. Oh, select this part. Rotation and scale. It's just a lot of space for a small part. And then we can duplicate these and bring them to the other side, and then we have it fixed. So this is the beam. I like to hide this one. And we make a duplication, so we have a backup. Shift D, like so. It's always good to have something. If something breaks, if something doesn't work out and you can see it, you have something there. So at this point, you can select everything and Control J. Just check, there's no modifier applied, no mirror. You have to be sure that looks all good. Control A, rotation and scale, and origin to geometry. Yeah, so this one is exactly in the middle. Fine. And we have this beam over here. So what I like to do is we're going to add these beams in the factory. So pressing Alt H, we have a factory back. And we start with this beam, and then we align the other construction. So let's go to the workbench and go to the render mode. And we're just dragging this one to this area, rotating it. We're not scaling it. I'm going to align this. It's very hard to see, so it's inside. So let's put this outside for a second. Yeah, exactly. So you don't want to interfere with the window. So that's why I need this reference. And I like to use a mirror. So we extend it, a mirror modifier. Go to the side view. GX, GY. We have to do the clipping to merge these, GY. Yeah. So we have this beam. It's a little bit too, well, it's maybe just good. Okay, and then I want to scale it a little bit down as Y. Like this. And it's not a big deal if it pops out a little bit, but just a little bit. GY, and bring this in position. Control A, rotation and scale. Oh, Control Z, you have to apply the mirror first, apply, and then we can do the rotation and scale. Okay, at this point, we're lowering this beam. So align this with the roof. Okay. And yeah, we're duplicating it, Shift D, to the other side. You can see this line is right here of the window. Another time, so we have a beam right here. You can take this window as a reference, let's say the corner of the window, and another duplication. So same for this point. We're using this window as a reference. Okay, from the inside, we can now see we have these beams, and you don't want them to interfere with the window, and that's not happening, so we're good. And this is in the workbench. So what I'd like to do is go back to cycles, material preview. Yeah. And just check the face orientation. Okay. And now I like to start adding these construction beams in the factory. So I can see that I almost blend everything except these two caps on the end. So we have to join these and change the name. Construction beam. So a lot of parts we do some cleanup later on. We bring this part inside of the factory, like this. So we have to align this. So bring this up. Let's go back to the workbench, render. And you can see the origin, because we joined these caps, are there. So we do this. We're scaling it a little bit. Scale it a little bit down. Then we're moving this so it's hitting the other beam, but not inside, just slightly like this. And looks good to me. So I want to have these beam in the middle between everything. So between this, Shift D, between these two windows, and Shift D again, and Shift D. So we have these beams at all parts. And that looks like this. So it's not finished yet. There's one more thing I like to do. Is we had this beam as backup and we used it without making a new duplication. So I like to just use this tall beam, Shift D, and we remove half of it, vertices. We rotate it and we rotate it again. And then we align it with this side. So we can just remove this part as well. Let's align this with, okay. And we put the origin back in the middle. And we want to have this beam as a sort of, it holds the other beams. So it's the construction of the factory. So inside it looks like this. Shift D, GY, and another time the final one. Okay. Currently we are in the workbench. We go back to cycles and I want to see how that looks in render mode. So there we have it. We have the construction beams. That was a lot of modeling, but it was definitely worth it. We still need some extra beams on the top, but therefore we also need the concrete pillars. That's quite a lot of work. So we combine that all in part 6. But the most complex modeling part is finished now. As the construction beams with all the tiny parts. That's done. That's a lot of work. And from this point, it's just modeling more objects, putting them in the right position, and finalize this. So it was a long ride. It was pretty tough. If you're still there, you did a great job. And imagine how beautiful this factory will be if we complete it with all the other parts. So thanks for watching, and I'd like to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.